Thank you all for being here. Today my topic is very sappy. True happiness. I wrote, actually on my paper I wrote true joy and fulfillment, and I couldn't quite decide what is the core of my topic. Is it joy? Is it fulfillment? Is it happiness? But I went with a sappy title, True Happiness. And I came up with this topic this week because I find myself sometimes, even though I've read the Divine Principle so many times and lived my whole life in an environment of faith, I sometimes still find myself feeling like self-centered, grumpy, dissatisfied, even when I know that I'm very blessed. So I thought this would be a good topic to give to myself, and that there might be something here for everybody else too. So we're going back to basics. If we go back to the very first opening paragraph of the Divine Principle, page 1, it says, everyone is struggling to attain happiness and avoid misfortune. From the commonplace affairs of individuals to the great events that shape the course of history, each is at root an expression of the human aspiration for ever greater happiness. How then does happiness arise? People feel joy when their desires are fulfilled. Now this is interesting because it starts off with this: everyone is struggling to attain happiness and avoid misfortune. And there's a little part of logic that's like, well, if everybody is trying to be happy, why aren't we? Right? That's what everybody is trying to do. And you think, if everybody is striving for the same thing, then why is it so hard? Well, welcome to the next part. We find a great contradiction in every person. Within the self-same individual, there are two opposing inclinations. The original mind that desires goodness, and the evil mind that desires wickedness. They are engaged in a fierce battle, striving to accomplish two conflicting purposes. Any being possessing such a contradiction within itself is doomed to perish. Human beings, having acquired this contradiction, live on the brink of destruction. And that is, I feel, a much more accurate portrayal of where humanity is at today. So what it comes down to is we all desire happiness, but we have these two opposing inclinations. We have two different types of desires. We have our original mind, or our original desires, the mind and the heart that resembles God and wants the same things that God wants. And then we also have the side of us that is selfish, that you could call our evil mind, our selfish desires. And we each have our own battle to face with these two conflicting desires, good and evil, of selfish and unselfish. On the one hand, nobody is missing their original mind. Even in the people that you feel like there's no hope for this person, they're too far gone. Deep within them is an original mind. We can't eradicate this part of us that is from God and that resembles God and desires God. And so I think, actually I really resonated with this when I was in high school, on GPA. I really connected to this thought that I think every person wants to live for a cause. So there's something inside of us that wants to be part of something greater, that wants to do something amazing for the world. And it's very alive in young people. I think every high school graduation speech I've ever heard has something to do with, I can't wait to see how you all change the world, and I'll see your faces in the news, and we're off to do great things. And when you're older, I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that person's face in the news. It wasn't for a good thing, But we have this desire to want to do something great. And I think that every person has it. And the reason why every person has it is because God put that in us. It's part of our design. It's part of our nature to want to live for a cause, to want to live for the greater good. There's, these movies, classic, epic movies that the world loves, like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. I could list off a lot, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The person who stands up and goes on this epic journey and overcomes himself and many challenges and saves the world. There's a reason why they're so popular, because it also resonates with something in us that wants to do the same. And yet, on the other hand, most of us are faced daily with our individual or evil or selfish desires. And it's just our reality. And I think that one of the challenges is that our bodily desires, our selfish desires, are much more easily attained. Isn't it? I'm tired this morning. I don't feel like getting up to work, so I'm just going to sleep in for 3 extra hours. That is a very easy thing to do, whereas saving the world is a much more difficult thing to do. Instant gratification is always at our fingertips, and especially now with cell phones. The world, unfortunately, has plenty of people who put their own wishes and needs above others, even at the expense of others. And even though we can say, well, that's wrong, there is some belief that they will be happier in doing it. There's a desire there. There's something missing in their heart that, at least for a little while, can be satiated or satisfied with the personal gain, even if it's in the long term detrimental to themselves and to others. So we see this, unfortunately, all the time. People stealing things that they want. My daughter and I were at the dollar store not that long ago in the evening, and we were coming out of the dollar store, and we hear this commotion. I look over, I think it's a Ross or something like that, and somebody's running out with bags of stuff, and there's a truck waiting for them with the engine running. They throw the things in and jump in, and I push Mia we had to get out of the road because he's peeling out. Right? It's there's so many levels of disregard there. Disregard for for order in society, disregard for basic ethics, but also even just the safety of people around them. But even that stemmed from some sort of a desire and some sort of a belief that action would fill a need for that person. People kill others and somehow feel that the revenge or eliminating the threat will make their life better. People step on others to move up a corporate ladder or to get ahead in life is just so prevalent. And we're all striving for the same thing. We all want to be happy. Nobody is like, well, I can't wait to see how bad I can make this day for myself and everybody else in it. But in our desire to be happy, without knowing, right? This is the key, without knowing who we really are, why we are here, and what is our purpose, humanity is kind of just wallowing around trying to fill these desires in any way that's available. And the most available ways to fill our needs are usually instant gratification and fulfilling our bodily desires. I want sleep, I want food, I want sex. How can I get those things? Because that makes me feel good right now, even if I wake up tomorrow morning feeling like crap. So this is from our founder, Reverend Moon, and I feel like this is really where what the heart of the matter comes down to. This is the dividing line. Good and evil are a matter of direction. So it's not necessarily an action that, oh, this is a good thing to do and this is a bad thing to do, but it's a matter of direction. And this is also interesting. Love itself is neutral. I think we kind of, society elevates love as always a good thing and the highest, most possible thing. And yes, true love, but we can experience love and be captivated by love and be actually imprisoned sometimes by love, thinking it might be a good thing, and it might not be. So love itself is neutral and is neither good nor evil. When love is erroneously given to Satan and the action is self-centered, the resulting direction is evil. On the other hand, when your love is given to God with compassion and energy to bring his will to earth, the direction is toward good. And here's a similar quote that brings it home. We must define good and evil in the sight of God. In his sight, an action is right if it is good. Evil is a self-centered action which pulls everything towards the individual, while good is a God-centered action which pushes everything towards God. So I think the defining line is, for what purpose are we doing the things that we do? And I think a lot of times in religious sphere and in our own faith, we talk about things like, oh, eating and sleeping and sex, like those are bad things. Actually, what did this quote say? Good and evil are a matter of direction. So it's not that food and sleep and sex are bad. It's for what purpose do we do those things? For what purpose do we use those things? So if we are disconnected from our purpose and our direction, that's when these bodily desires take over. That's when our self-centered desires take over. And we feel like that they're the only way for us to be happy. There are so many people wandering aimlessly, grasping for anything to fill them up. And yet we find that those things always fall short of bringing us true happiness, don't they? I know sometimes when I'm really busy, I'm like, oh, if I could just sleep in. That's the thing that I feel like I'm usually wanting. I'm like, that would make me happy. If I could just stay in bed a couple more hours, like this would be an awesome day. Oh, especially when I was fundraising. One time, so I had a captain on STF, and she had a really, really loud alarm, and she always, I heard stories about captains who would like sleep in, and I was like, that sounds amazing. And my captain never did, but one day she did. And I was like, And I felt like $1,000,000. But it's tricky though, because if it were to happen every day, then you would feel a little bit icky. And I know for myself, like these days, when I do have an opportunity, like yesterday was Saturday morning, and I slept in, and it felt good when I was like turning off my snooze button and going back to sleep. But then I got up later and I was like, oh, I had things I wanted to do today, and I don't have enough time to do them anymore. And those were things that I actually really wanted to do. Those were more of my original desires, of things that I knew needed to be done, that would further my relationship with my kids, further my relationship with my family, and work towards the goals that I had. And so it's so easy to do. It happened to me yesterday. I gave up my original desires for a few more hours of just making my body happy. But the reason why those things will never make us truly happy is because that's not what we were designed for. Human beings are not designed to just eat and sleep and have sex. If that was our design, we would be truly happy in doing those things only. But we are designed for true happiness. We are designed as individual, unique embodiments of truth that reflect God in a way that nobody else can, and in a way that complements all the other people in our family and in our community, in our society. And we're designed as a whole to work together and create something beautiful. We can't exist only on our own and be happy. We're created to find our greatest joy and fulfillment by living in harmony, not just with my own wants, but with others and with the universe as a whole. Once we grasp this, then it becomes very obvious, like instantly, that I will never truly be happy just trying to make myself happy. This is a quote from Philippians. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of the others. And so, we kind of looked at these two different desires. We want to be happy, and we can sometimes find instant ramen happiness through sleep and food and sex, addictions. And we can find true happiness in discovering our purpose and in following that. But here's the thing. Most of you, I think, have already kind of figured this out. I'm already talking about things you already know. I think the only reason why you are here today is because you already have a sense of your purpose. You've already let go of many of the trappings and pitfalls of this world. You might know what your purpose in life is. And yet, like myself, you might still find yourself living in your purpose and yet not quite feeling like I'm truly happy right now. Isn't that frustrating? I think for many people, when they first meet God, or they first have that transformational experience, or they first step out on that journey, it feels like you're reborn. That's a rebirth experience. I let go of everything that is not of God and is not good for me, and I'm moving forward, and there's so much energy and excitement and purpose in that. But it's not just a one-time thing. It's not just a moment that switches, and then for the rest of your life, you're living on cloud 9 and filled with joy and grace and happiness, right? It's just the first step of a life journey. And so then what do we do? As we're on our journey of faith, as we are walking towards our purpose, how do we renew our minds? How do we renew our spirits? And not just feel, because I've even found myself after making a commitment and walking towards it and being in my commitment and trying to fulfill my responsibilities, my commitment, and if I don't refresh myself and keep connecting back to God, I can actually start to feel resentful towards my commitment and that I made a decision to go this way. It would be so much, sometimes I think, it would be so much easier if I just stopped and went back home to Missouri. I feel like this is what I'm always going to face. It's like I have a taste of what heaven on earth is like in a beautiful nature, with the people that I love, in a peaceful place. And there's a part of me that's like, I just like to do that for the rest of my life. But I also know, I spent a long time there, and and in my mind, I can kind of idealize what it's like, and I always remember all the best parts. But if I really think about it, there are so many times growing up where I'm like, I felt very directionless. What is my purpose? What am I really here to do? So I have to remember, right, why I chose the path I chose. But the fact of the matter is that even when we are committed to a goal and a purpose, and even when I know I've been called by God to do something, it's not always easy to feel that as a reality, right? We have our daily lives to deal with. We have our relationships we've got to work through. We have responsibilities we've got to fulfill. So how can we avoid these pitfalls and keep our eyes on God? This was a question I was asking myself. So I came up with some ideas, and you can let me know if they work for you. But I think that having daily practices really, really help. And to be honest, I struggle with daily practices too. Maybe it's a weekly practice to begin with. We had a ladies' night last night at Anissa's house, and we pulled little cards of like something to focus on for the week or something to practice. And mine was on gratitude. And I was like, oh, this is a big one. Just as Pastor Mike last week was sharing about perspective, like what kind of perspective do we take on our life? Do we take my own perspective with just simply my own experiences and the things that are happening to me? Or do I take God's full perspective on the situation and see how God has been guiding me throughout my life, and that God is moving me, even in maybe a difficult situation, God is moving me through it towards something better? Then even in a challenging situation, I can find gratitude. And my card said something about how gratitude is the conduit for wealth and riches, and it not necessarily just talking about money, right? To have a wealthy life, I first have to recognize the abundance that I already have. If I cannot feel grateful for everything that God has done in my life up to this point, and where I'm at right now, and the fact that I have a beautiful family and so many friends, and I live in a beautiful state, and I have a heart that pumps and lungs that breathe, and you can go down to the most smallest things and be so incredibly grateful for them. If I can't do that, then it's very hard for me to even appreciate if something good does come my way. But if I can just pause for a moment and be grateful, I'm not sick today. Pastor Mike is sick. I've been expecting to wake up the last 3 days. Every night I go to bed, I'm like, tomorrow's probably going to be the day. I'm going to wake up with a sore throat. But I'm not. So I can actually pause and be, wow, I'm so grateful for my health today, that I can be here. And that gratitude fills me up, even if something good doesn't come my way today. It totally shifts my perspective. And that in itself allows for a greater true happiness, right? If I already feel filled with gratitude for what God is doing in my life right now, then I don't feel the need to find instant ramen gratification with an extra hour of sleep, or with any of those other things that we like sometimes grasp for when we're feeling listless, when we're feeling bored, when we're feeling directionless. So gratitude is a big one. Another one is prayer, a daily practice or even a weekly practice of prayer. This also helps us to shift our perspective. One of the, I think, valuable things in our faith that we teach about prayer that I think is kind of unique is not just to pray for the things that we want. I think in many faith practices, the idea is to pray for what you want. Ask and it will be given. Knock and the door will be opened. So ask for what you want. But in our faith practice, we really teach people to not only pray for the things that we want, but pray to see from God's viewpoint. And pray that I will find the courage and the strength to do the things that God wants. This is another way to kind of take ourselves out of where we might be stuck. Reading God's words is another one. Maybe positive communication with others. Attending a ladies' night. We're hoping to get some small groups going this summer, so I hope you all join a small group, having this positive communication with others. Just as I shared a couple weeks ago, we all have our own God language. So maybe sitting in a prayer room and praying isn't the way for you to renew your purpose or to find true happiness. But I guarantee you, you've got some way. You've got some way that when you tune into it, you connect to God and you can be revived. And for some people, it might just be coming to church. Coming to church on a Sunday might revive for you. I think sometimes we kind of get into a pattern of what the week looks like and what our responsibilities are and the things that we have to do. But we know if I can just come to church on Sunday and I can listen to that music and I can hear those words, then I will find strength for the next week. So what is that for you? I hope that whether you are in the beginning stages of trying to understand the difference between selfish desires that lead to false happiness and original desires that lead to true happiness, if you're there, that's a great place to start. It's actually such an exciting journey to be on, because it's in those beginning stages of learning how to let go of myself and learning how to let go of the things that this world is trying to control me with, that we find God working really beautifully in our lives. I feel like some of the most impactful experiences of my life of faith were in the very beginning, when you feel like your eyes are just beginning to open to who God is and what God can actually do in your life if you take the steps towards Him. So if that's you, I pray for you. I pray that you can just, sometimes it only takes one time of saying no to the thing you usually say yes to, that God can step in and claim your heart. But maybe you feel like you're a veteran and you've been on this road for a while, and you're getting kind of weary. It's a long road. How do I keep my inspiration? How do I keep my commitment? How do I stick to my purpose over a long period of time? I'd like to encourage you that just because you're experienced, and just because you might have read the Divine Principle so many times, or just because you've experienced your faith a certain way, it doesn't mean that's the only way to experience God. It doesn't mean that you're stuck in a rut. I always get so excited when something fresh happens in my life of faith. Because sometimes I feel like that, like, oh, I've already done it all. I've prayed all the prayers, I've read all the books. But then God will find some way to touch me or inspire me or set me on a new direction in my life that I wasn't even expecting. And then it's like a whole new journey of discovery and of finding faith as he guides me along an uncharted course. And then I start to have those experiences just like I did at the very beginning of my life of faith, where I'm so surprised by what God can do with me. So as you go into this week, my hope for you is to, whether it's at the beginning, to discern, right? What am I wanting right now? And is it trying to pull things into me? Or am I trying to give something to God through it? And if you're further down the road, my hope is that we won't get stuck. We won't get stale in our life of faith. I listened to, Peggy Ujiri has her podcast on the Why I Joined. Yeah, Mike and I listened to her podcast this past week, and I loved it. And she said, I never did anything because I felt like I had to. And I'm still excited about the life I'm living. I'm still excited about the things I have to do and to contribute to God. That's awesome. So I think each one of us, wherever we're at, we still have something amazing to offer to God. God's purpose is still there calling us forward, right? God's never like, okay, you did it. You did your 2 years of GPA, so thanks for your service. That's it, or that's it. Congratulations on getting blessed and having kids. You did it. Now you're done. Or congratulations on having grandchildren. You've completed your life's purpose, and you could live another 5 minutes or 5 years, doesn't matter. Right? But I feel like sometimes we kind of think that way, like, well, that's as far as I've peaked. I don't think I could ever get past that. But it's not. I think our journey towards God can only get broader and deeper and more beautiful if we allow that for ourselves, right? If we keep making those discerning decisions of how we are spending our time. What am I giving my energy to? Am I trying to pull towards myself, or am I trying to give out? And when we make those steps to try to give out, even when it's hard, even when I don't feel like it, even when it doesn't feel like joy in the moment, but knowing that it's coming, right? I feel like God always opens up something new. So I'm excited for all of our journeys together. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Parent, thank you for this day. Thank you for this message. What I really feel through this is that even when we feel stuck or we feel stale, it's not because that we've done all we can do, and it's not because of you. There's something in ourselves that we need to let go of. There's maybe something that we're trying to hold on to or attract for my sake. And I pray we can let go of that, and that we can instead find ways to give out and find ways to move towards you and discover all the beauty that you designed us for, Heavenly Parent. We offer this time to you, and as we go into our offering, I pray that we can reflect on our lives, how you've been guiding us up to this point, and how we might just be on the first step of our next exciting journey closer to your heart. And I offer this prayer in my name, Michael and Adonia Hendrick, a blessed family. Amen and adieu. All right. We're going to have our offering now, so I'd like to invite our welcome ministry to bring up